They've got the little get together for her for lunch with the supervisors at the 45th. And we'd like to see, she's retired. We'd like to see if we can get a proclamation authorized for the chairman's signature to. I'd make a motion. Like Jim, second by Dave, like Jay, by unanimous second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, sir. Good. Guys, I'm higher. You want to put just, that check. Just announce. So, take a seat and be ready for this meeting.
I did.
We reject your meeting, we're gonna make a resolution. Not waxing philosophical. Just sit here and don't listen to them. Okay, we're gonna call this meeting to order. I need a motion to accept the February 13th minutes. Moved by Dave, second by Sam, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, carried. Okay, buildings and grounds, generator service contract.
Okay, Matt was not able to be here this morning. He is requesting a waiver from the procurement policy, which requires 3 quotes. This is for the generator maintenance. It was with Brownell Electric. It was a 3-year contract. He would like to extend that. And the reason being is that they already have a schedule for replacement of batteries and service of the standby generators. So he would just like to continue that with Brownell Electric.
Just a waiver. Moved by Dave, second by. Question.
Yeah, how much is the annual contract?
Less than $10,000. Looks like. Yeah, but actually it looks like it's under $5,000 a year.
3 contracts, yeah.
And now, are they dealing with just the electrical part of it? There's the mechanical part of that generator.
Like it's
What's the contract for?
Generator maintenance service.
Do they change the oil and all that? And then, what you're saying, air filters?
I believe that is correct.
You
Yeah,
probably don't, do you have a copy of
looks like
what
it's
the
total
maintenance is or not?
I have a whole contract here. It's quite lengthy.
Would you like to read it in the meeting?
Well, I don't want to drag the meeting out, but
No, we continue.
we're doing a 3-year contract. We even know what we're getting.
We've already had 2 3-year contracts with
same
Brownell. So we're
contract.
just
Right, I know it.
renewing
And remember, I remember when the year that Dana, you first came out of Sam, who was before you?
For me,
Richard
Moore.
Rich Moore mentioned on the renewing these contracts, and his was help. You know, it saved us, what, $500,000? Because after 3 times of renewal, he said you should put this out to bid again. So that's why I'm asking. I mean, and we aren't talking a big number, so I'm not really worried about it, but if we've had 3 renewals, maybe it's time that we look at this again, is all.
Ryan, I just ask you, is this for the towers, is it for your
Yes.
facility or the whole?
For everything,
Everything,
for everything.
towers included.
Okay.
Yeah.
And last time, Matt did tell me this morning, the last time they put it out, they only had 1 other response. So there are not a lot of responders for this
Oh, no, there wouldn't.
contract.
Yeah. I won't be here next year to say anything, so I wanted to make sure I got it.
Your time.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Advocacy resolution, Department of Social Services. Yeah, resolution A. All in cold blue policy. Charlie, do you want to say anything about this? I heard you altered it a little.
Well, I mean, Tammy gave a very nice write-up, but I added a couple of whereas's, I think, that.
Bottom 3, I believe, Mr. Stone.
Pardon me?
Bottom 3.
Whereas, right. Telling them what we think they should do instead of saying, oh, what you have done. And whereas we're complaining, we want you to develop a funding model that works. Not impose mandates on our counties and
Interagency task force.
what is the interagency?
The first one.
And they should do an interagency task force, which is, if they did it, they would slow things down on the one hand, but they would focus on it. But we're a little county and it's gonna all be spent on the big counties.
Right.
Will they read it?
Well. Nice additions, Charlie. Yeah. Good job. Okay, I need a motion to do resolution A. Moved by Jim, second by Sam, Dave. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Senator, you're up.
All right, so I got good news and bad news. Bad news is, the numbers are probably the worst I've seen since pre-COVID. The good news is you're not gonna have to listen to me right now, because I reserved that right for later when Brian joins in. Sales tax, while the last 2 numbers are actually down, they're not down significantly. That's not unexpected from what Brian and I talked to you about since budget time last year. What our new norm is, I don't think we know. The world is drastically changing right now, and we don't know yet the impact of tariffs and such. One thing I will tell you on the positive side is we just went out to renew our ban for a little bit over $11 million. And it came in at 2.5%, which was remarkably lower than I had anticipated. So while, the Lord giveth on this side and taketh away on the other side, hopefully at the end of the day, we at least balance and tread water, right? I was happy to see that rate come in, but I think on the other end, depending on where gas prices and everything go, because, gas is a big driver on our sales tax. But don't forget, for as long as I've been in this position, our #1 driver is still auto sales. So it'll be very interesting to see how that market plays locally. We also don't know yet, come September, we're gonna have to have our short-term rental platform and registry in place. That is gonna be an unknown number of additional sales tax and mortgage tax, or sales tax and occupancy tax coming to the county. So it may be interesting to see, we may have a market decrease in sales tax that we don't notice, because at the same time, that new sales tax from the short-term rentals kicks in. So I'll be monitoring it to the best I can. You'll be surprised to know the state doesn't necessarily share the sales tax information in a way that makes it useful to any of us. The only person that can get the actual data from the actual customers is me. And the footnote to that is I can't tell you. So I can find out the answer, I just can't tell you the answer. So it's almost better not knowing.
Now,
Sir,
when you say it kicks in September, when would we receive the money?
so there's some letters out there now. I don't have a straight answer for you, is the unfortunate short answer. There's some letters that people are already receiving from the platforms, some of the operators are already receiving. So my understanding of the law is the law kicks in September. But it sounds like some of the platforms are doing something effective March first, April first, like soon. So I don't know how that's gonna play, because under the law, in order for them to collect occupancy tax, the location needs a registration number. And we're not gonna have a registration number system in place for a little while yet anyway. We'll meet the September deadline, but it's not gonna be tomorrow. We're still interviewing software companies that will provide that service for us. So the unfortunate answer is I don't have an answer for you, but as soon as I know, I will share it.
Okay,
Charlie, what was our ban rate before? A little over 3?
I have to go back and look at it, Mr. Hall. I honestly didn't prepare to give that. I can send it to you though.
Well, that's okay.
And what's interesting is there was about 5 or 6 bids. And at least 4 of them all bid the same gross interest rate. The deciding factor really, so they offer a premium from the bond sale. The premium from the bond sale that brings you down to the net interest was the deciding factor in, so I think 4 of them literally bid the exact same interest rate. So the deciding factor became the premium from the bond sale that they were willing to offer.
Thank you.
Cash balances are down about $6 million overall from the same time last year. And based on the numbers that I'm seeing, that cash on hand translates pretty closely to what I'm seeing on the financials. So while I don't like being 6 million short, we're 6 million short. I shouldn't say short, shorter than the same time last year, right? And some of that, don't forget, is we're starting to significantly spend some of the ARPA money. You know, we put millions aside for the barns that are, you know, that money's drawing down rather quickly, so that was an anticipated cash decrease that was gonna happen. No matter what, that was the plan, you know, we knew that was coming. I do have the next 8 pages, or 4 pages of budget to actual for 2024, and 4 pages of actual for 2025. The only thing I'm gonna let you know now is, like I said, we're gonna be talking about this later. Right now, I'm looking at about unreserved fund balance dropping down to about 18.8 million, of which 3.8 was appropriated for 25. If you actually use that, that's gonna drop us down to $15 million unreserved unappropriated fund balance, which was the level of fund balance that I started having heart palpitations pre-COVID when we had the issue in Fort Edward. So again, we're gonna have probably some significant conversations later today or in the very near future. But there's some significant financial problems with what happened in 2024 that are starting to really come clear. We projected about a $5 million loss. We're about $1 million off from that, it looks like. So it's not drastically different than we prepared you for, but the numbers, when you hear them today, they're still rather eye-opening. You know what I mean? I don't expect to see fund balance drop one time. And just to put it in perspective, we passed a fund balance policy. That our fund balance policy is our floor, not our ceiling, our floor is 20% of the adopted budget, which will be 23.5 million. And we stand to drop down to 50. So that's a significant piece of information that I need you to kind of have in the.
We have to amend our policy to be in compliance.
Well, your fund balance policy is what your goal is.
So
You're not going to achieve your goal on any level this year.
Well, and the problem is you do it next year and you will be in, well, you'll be gone. At 10 million, you'll be going all lost figures.
And the last page in my packet, I have to give credit to the budget officer for. He's brought this to me a few times. And based on the resolutions that you're gonna see today, this sheet has more value than ever. And I don't know if Brian wants to talk about it now, if he wants to wait till we get into the resolutions, but the very last sheet in your packet is a net cost report for our Department of Social Services. And we're gonna have, some more conversations about one of the resolutions in the packet. And maybe this sheet is better for that time, Brian, or?
Well, Tammy's already here and I don't want to take her time, so it might be the best to have that conversation. So I think I mentioned at budget time, I was surprised that we'd gone from 18 million to 30 million in about a 5-year time in total expense. And we weren't doing too bad because the revenue was coming. And even though we may not have liked the growth in our actual net cost, it was what it was to serve the people we serve. But now it's, I don't have, no. And, so you can just turn to the very back page, you can see what I've been seeing, that I ran it in December, but just figured that the number wasn't, it was gonna change, because more revenue was gonna arrive. The fact I'm totally wrong, because revenue's all in now, makes it come to the forefront in March. It hasn't changed any of the issues that are there in the real world. It just changes the amount of money it costs to do it. So if you look at the 24 adopted budget, it showed that our net cost was estimated the 6.7 million. And then the actual amount as of today, I'll have Tammy speak in just a minute. She thinks there's another 700,000 possibly of revenue. So that 10,842,000 could drop down in the 10,1, 10,2 range. It's still a huge increase from what was ever expected. That still has us at about 3.5 million. And so that scares the hell out of me, because it makes me wonder where 25 goes. And they had a clawback last year. Are they gonna claw back more? And with all that being said, that is or is it within our control now? You have a federal government and a state government fighting over these certain issues. So I can't imagine we're gonna come out a winner in any of this. And I just want you to realize that when you lose that kind of money in fund balance, you have no fund balance to use when you come out with the budget next year. That's a big problem. And at the same time, how do you tell the people that go to work every day, by the way, we're not building your bridge, we're not paving your road because it's going for this group of people? It's hard to tell that to the taxpayer. So that's my concern, but I'll hand it over to Tammy. I know she's got a handout for us, and it's gonna explain some of this, put it in a little better perspective.
I don't know that it's gonna change anything, but it does help put the perspective.
Yeah, I'll have Tammy come here when she speaks.
Okay. Ready? Perspective, as far as comparing us to Warren County, it just doesn't work the same way there. So I pulled some information, adding in data from Warren and Washington, as well as bringing Livingston into it. And I use Livingston because that's the age old, the very least for us really old department heads. It's the comparison that was always made.
She interviewed.
It's the comparison that was always made for Washington County. So in terms of perspective, and knowing that there's been a fair amount of discussion as to whether our spending is necessary, or if it's a sign that there's some other problem within DSS, or whether it's within our county, I thought it would be helpful for you to be able to see. I gave you the reports that were taken from the community down somewhere. From Community Action Association, website. So they are Washington's, Livingston's and Warren's. Gives a comparison about our poverty rates. Also, showing some significance in education levels of people within our counties. The overall number of how many people we have. And then on the other page, I provided you with the information about our actual things that are actually drawing the most from our budget. And gave you the look back to 23 and the comparison for 24. That's this page.
You have any more copies of those?
I think I put them, I do have more.
We lack one more on here. You have one, John?
I got that.
Yep.
All right, good.
Just amazing the number of individuals in our county compared to others.
Well, and when you look at it, it's, well, so the top part is SNAP. So that's what used to be called food stamps. I gave you that just for the sake of knowing that to be eligible for SNAP, that's a lot of people that are working. It's a higher income level to qualify for SNAP than it is to qualify for temporary assistance. So often we'll look at the numbers comparing how many people are on both SNAP and temporary assistance versus just SNAP to show us, you know, that margin. So I wanted you to see those numbers are much larger than the population that receives. I have TANF and safety net there. That is what is temporary assistance. TANF is federal funds. That's generally speaking for people who have children in their families, and safety net is generally speaking for people that are singles, have no children, or have been collecting or over the course of the years, collected more than 60 months worth of temporary assistance. So that shows you our numbers for the number of households, the number of individuals, comparison from 23 to 24, what the expense has been, and then what that change has been in the expense. So even though you can see from that middle-ish line here of TANF, safety net, Washington, at the far end, you can see that we went up in expense by 20.86%. However, our caseload is down. And that is the cost of the motels in paying for the homeless people that qualify for these benefits.
So when you said the HH, if I understand it right, that's the household. But
Yes.
The next column is individual.
Yes.
So is this many families plus this many individuals?
No.
Or that's that many individuals within those many households?
Yes, that many individuals within those households.
I have a question. So I guess my concern is that we're short at the end of the year, but at what time in the year, what month in the year did we start realizing that we were short? That we didn't have enough to cover what we projected in the budget? How did that work?
As we trickle down, October is when we really start to zoom in, and that is certainly, I've been talking about the expense of the motels and the weight that we're carrying as far as homeless people and the foster care costs pretty consistently through all of those meetings. The way that we at Social Services are accustomed to taking a look at our full budget year end is total, total left, total spent, total revenue received, and then where that leaves us. At this point, doing that, there is about, I think, 500,000 showing in Code Blue. That's not real money because wasn't really spent for Code Blue, so we can't draw it for that. But in the past, I believe that would have been maybe moved someplace else to then offset something else, and there would have been a loss in revenue. In this way, we're focusing on these in the resolution, focusing on these key categories and funding them while there is still going to be money showing reflected as unspent in the DSS budget. We're not spending anymore. So in the end, whatever is left, whether it be from what we had budgeted or whether it be from what we're adding in, it will still all go back to the general fund.
My only,
Is that fair? Al?
Yeah, and if I can, real quick, Sam, if you, we have had conversations too, starting maybe as early as budget time last year. That Tammy identified a problem. Had no way to know at that time what the magnitude might be. She had proactively taken steps to try to fix the 25 budget, which looks now like even that may be short of, she gave Brian a heart attack then. The problem is that might even fall short. Our advice that we talked about in this room that was given to Tammy was rather than pass a resolution every month, let's wait till we see what the order of magnitude is and we'll fix it one time. So that's why you're seeing one big resolution now, rather than 6 monthly resolutions. That answers your question.
it does, and I guess where my thought pattern was on that was if we'd have had an idea overall, this is what it was going to be, it's huge. We might have made some other decisions of what we did throughout the year on money that we
But
spent.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
That was-
Some things we said yes to, maybe
I'm not putting any blame on anybody, I'm
Yeah,
just saying if it
understood.
would just, make more sense and to meet your goal of what we wanted to keep in the balance account. Would have been, we could have maybe addressed it with some other things we'd have wanted differently on, and we did not, we'd have realized this is gonna be this huge.
You're just so used to me saying no, it doesn't have any impact.
Exactly.
Exactly.
No, I won't kid about that part.
Question, Tammy, and this is first is gonna sound bad, but it's not.
Thank you.
No,
No, thank you
it's
for the
gonna sound
disclaimer.
bad that
I'm saying
asking.
thank you for the disclaimer ahead of time.
After she just told her.
Are there programs that are not mandated but recommended and funded if we do enter into them through your department that could be not provided?
No. There is discretion within our mandates, some degree in how we provide service. That is not about these entitlement benefits. These we are quite restricted on,
Okay,
and in some ways ridiculously so. And is that resolution that you had sent to me, Al, is that here in this
It's in the
packet?
packet.
So there's some, that speaks to how ridiculous it is on how much money can be spent for people in receipt of temporary housing assistance versus what they are eligible for if they're home, if they have their own place to stay and they're receiving temporary assistance. The thing is about the temporary housing. So there are differences within those lines, but they are regulations for us. So where we have discretion, we do utilize that, and that is shared also transparently. We have preventive services, a preventive services unit that works with children at risk of foster care placement. Those are referrals that can be made by schools, families can refer themselves, our child protective workers make referrals. We have a larger need for service than we are capable of providing through our workers, or it's just inappropriate for the workers at the level that they are at to be doing some of the other things that we can contract for. So we have a couple of preventive contracts. That I guess reminds me, we do have contracts right now, charging to safety net for shelter beds. We don't have to have a contract, but it is a way to get people on their feet, more direct service provided to them in the places that they are staying, rather than it be a situation where they're either in a motel and they only see us, maybe once a week, or they are in code blue and have to evacuate the building during the day. These are people that are in programs that are there, they're focused on them through the day. So we are using some money for that. It primarily has been the APS ARPA funds that we've used. to fund those shelter beds, we'd be paying for those people regardless, and hopefully this is a more effective way to get them stable and have them remain that way in the future. So we do have some discretion. But it's usually pans out that it's saving us money versus us doing it. We're still required to provide those services.
Given, as you stated, we're restricted on a lot of this. If federal funds, are reduced coming into the county. And we're still required, so we would have to foot the bill. Is that correct?
If they come without any changes in the regulations, yes. One example of that, the federal government defined what is provided as, and I'm gonna say safety net with not a capital S or N, just a safety net for people that can't meet their own expenses, and that's funded through TANF. That's the federal funding that's made available. New York State opted to also create safety net, big S, big N, and fund it. At the time, they started with 50-50, and now that's what's gone to 79-21. So the federal government can stop whatever they want. We still have to serve the, what the state regulations are, what the laws are in place in New York State.
Thank you.
Amy, did you just reverse that because it says 2971? You said 7921, or you just on the share numbers?
It's 2971.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a disclaimer that for me to say out loud anything above 10,
And my other question is, it's all bad, that it's more money to us, but are these figures the total, or are they just our 71% share of the totals?
they're the total. They're the gross.
So if the federal government doesn't provide funding that they were expected because of events up there, there's potential then the state can ship it down to the county and town also, right? To the county.
That's what they've been doing that.
But yeah, that's not that.
Part of how we got, there's already
Yeah.
been a ship.
Would it be escalating?
Yeah, town. Is that what you said? Town is in on.
So if
They'll
this,
take where they get it.
if the difference is actually 3.5 million, if this revenue that we think's coming will be the final number. The big difference that I see is we're $1.5 million budget in expense, and we're 2 million short on revenue. And you add the two together, and it's the 3.5 difference. That's a huge concern. As to
And-
how we let it, not as we let it,
Yeah.
but how did it grow that big?
So I think there's two factors there.
That's.
One, when we set up our budget, we talk about what should we put in here for revenue? How should that tie out at the end in our overall budget for what is locally funded? And there are times that a number will get put in for revenue that's higher than what we believe we'll likely get.
Yep.
However, if we were conservative with that number, we may then have the risk of overtaxing the residents of the county. The other side of the risk is that then it's got to come from general fund. So that's one aspect of it. We often think we won't get all of the revenue, but generally we don't spend all of the money either. So,
Right.
so we've got that
So this is the
cushion.
reverse.
We've got that cushion. This is the first time this has happened in my 18 years as commissioner. The other aspect of it being that when you move that money out of a 100% funded category and you're pulling it to a 29,
Funded.
do I have 29? I just want to make sure I got it.
29. you got that.
29% funded category, the overall math, that, your overall revenue projection is gonna come in lower.
But right now, we're below 60%. It's gonna go somewhere near 62 or 3, I think. I didn't do the math yet. If we had the 700,000.
And so we are anticipating an additional 700,000. However, when the books get closed out, the books get closed out. That's the other thing with revenue, because we're waiting on the state to send it to us. It may or may not fall when you can get it back into that calendar year, but that happens repeatedly. It just can sway.
But the best case scenario is still the 700,000.
Will come.
That's
Yes.
the problem. So usually
Yes.
we are always in the 70 to 72%. The anomalies here were COVID money that got us higher. So we expect to be in the 70 to 72% no matter what. 60 just is never gonna cut it. I mean, the things we can. So is there a way that we can be like the health insurance company and make you ask 3 times before you get anything, just like they do to us? Or is that not work for this group of people? I mean, that's the way health insurance works right now. You go to the doctor, you get, everything gets tried, the insurance company says no, no, and no, and finally one gets approved. Is there a way to slow this down? Because if the money goes out the door slower, that would also help. And I don't know if there's a way to do that without doing harm to the communities or to the people, but it seems like there's just an overabundance of money going out the door too fast with the revenue not coming back. And I don't know if there's a way to do that differently.
So the law says, no, you can't do that to them. You take an application, you have to determine the application. When somebody comes through our front door and says, hi, I'm here and I'm homeless, we do put them through quite a conversation. Where'd you stay last night? Where were you the night before that? Do you have any family or friends that we could pay a room share for? What are the other alternatives here? Do you have any money in your pocket? If you get Social Security, we can put you in a motel, but you're still going to have to pay a large amount of that income that you have toward that payment. We do all of that. I know it can be said that it is easier in Washington County than it is in Warren. All I can say is that it's correct and trauma informed in Washington County. We have created a homeless unit. You know this. We've now got 3 people dedicated to working closely with people that are homeless to try to help them find what they need, take them on a walk through an apartment, show them what the appropriate behavior would be, ask the right questions. The same thing if they're calling, asking to get an interview someplace for an employer. The numbers do not, they don't net out. The ratio is really bad with those 3 workers, and one of them is out on an unexpected long-term medical leave. So having them focus on a list of 150 people really was showing us that it was completely ineffective. So we have made changes in the last several months now for picking who they should work with, who needs it most to get them out, who are our longest stayers, that sort of thing. I have also pulled together all of the department and said, this, other than safety, this is the county's priority. We've got to bring an end to all of these people being homeless. Whatever impact we can have on it, we need to have on it. We are pulling pieces of time from other units that have other tasks that they focus on and having them assist with this. If it's adult services is taking 2 extra cases to be able to handhold and help them get in. One of the things I've recently been told is the state training tells a caseworker you're not to enable someone, you've got to have them do it on their own. And I have said, I don't care right now. We'll enable the heck out of them if it gets them into a room or a rental situation, and then we'll keep track of them and have them figure out what they need to do to stay stable. You got to get them out because of these funds. I don't know what else I can do short of us doing scattered site housing throughout the department, throughout the county, like a long ago housing study showed was needed. Short of us opening our own shelter or warming center. I emailed with Livingston County. They have a warming center that probably costs less money than, say, paying for an overnight shelter. But you're still going to have people out on the sidewalks. Do you want to see these people or not?
Tammy and Brian, I'm just trying to summarize what you're saying overall, the big picture. You've come and realized, Brian, that we're getting quite a spread between revenue and expenses in social services. Big numbers, and it's growing. And Tammy, he presented this to you when you reviewed everything, and you don't see where you can anyway make it more efficient, and you explained how you you're working with efficiency right now. Is this a prelude to saying that it's gonna cost us a lot more in the next few years? Or are you saying this is a temporary bubble that hopefully will go back to normal? I'm just trying to understand what's being said.
I think we'd have to look to some anthropologists to try to figure out where that might go. It's cultural, it's, you know, a lot of this, we were making a difference on our homeless counts before the pandemic. During the
Mhm.
pandemic, everything froze,
Right,
and then we got flooded with funds as people started
right.
getting
And now the
evicted
funds
from
have
their,
dried
right.
up. And
There was mass evictions and our numbers skyrocketed for people that needed someplace to stay. A lot of them stayed with families during that period of time of the pandemic. Landlords don't want to do business with people that they don't think they're going to be able to, one, receive their payment from, or two, get out when they don't want them there any longer. So it's been very slow to pick back up to having landlords show
well,
that
I
they have
think you've done a
apartments.
great job here, they establishing the problem and what has caused the problem. And I'm not trying to put Brian, you or Al on the spot. I'm just trying to get the big picture. Is this something that you think is gonna be ongoing, growing? And so what, somebody needs to, and I'll ask the question, somebody needs to ask the question. Are we gonna try to come up with a solution, or is this strictly, we're gonna end up raising taxes to accommodate this problem?
And that's what the problem is. We don't, Tammy says it's totally basically mandated that we can't really get out from under this carpet.
Well, she's established that, and so
Right.
that's not
But
the
I've also
problem. The
said-
problem now is
So
how do
the
we deal with
problem,
it?
the problem is if we're gonna increase, I thought if we increased $1 million a year, net cost would be something. I didn't expect 3.5 in 1 year. Because I
Right,
don't know if it's gonna be another 3.5 in the current year. See, we don't know.
3.5 more or
Well,
the
that's what we
same
don't know.
3.5?
Because
3.5 more.
We're projected at 8 million for this year's budget, but we actually just hit 10 million. No, even with more money comes in, we've
Good.
already hit 10 million. I don't know how 8 million can possibly be real if you already hit 10. Unless we slow down the expense going out. And that is like.
And you're
in
saying in her
department,
department
I
slow it
can't,
down?
I
or-
can't slow it down. That's gonna be her department, whether they can slow it down. They can slow it down if they get these people back to work, but you gotta remember how the state's set up.
But that's
We've taken
not
away every
slowing
type
down,
of.
that's lowering.
Right.
Right.
We are
Slowing
working,
down just means it goes out.
Well,
It takes
here's
longer
how-
to get out.
If it takes
You're-
longer to get out and you can only get 20 million out the door and you get 70% of it back, you're only 6 million off.
Yeah,
But if you
that's
got 30 million going out the door,
right.
because you went as fast as you could, you're gonna pay 70% of that.
So really, we don't have any solutions, you're just showing us the.
I want you to know that how the predicament we're in, because how do I go to other departments and tell the sheriff, listen, it was nice having a road patrol, but we gotta take care of the homeless. And so we can't afford your road patrol anymore. Or how do I go to Deb Downey and say, we can't build bridges and pave anymore?
agree with
That's
you.
where the money is, the state allows. But the state has gone to an area where there's no deterrence to anything anymore. You don't deter anything. We used to have a little bit of pride and a little self-priority and self-preservation that we cared about having a home and all that. Well, we've entered so many things in. We've legalized drugs, we've legalized criminal activity, we've legalized all those things. You just go to court, you get a certificate, you come back the next time and you know, you never really pay the price. We don't want anybody in jail. Nobody is responsible for their own actions. This is what happens. When you have more empathy than you have wisdom, this is the price you pay. That's where we're at.
You want to ask me?
I certainly do. I want to see your true colors.
First of all, I want to thank Tammy for being on so many different, committees that include mental health, the assess. It's a complicated thing. Okay, and everybody is gonna have to come together and figure that. You did the doing, you've been sharing it for as long as I've been here.
yeah, if
So it's not a meeting.
I wonder
I don't have, I don't have it within my department
Yeah.
to fix it.
Right. And so that being said, you look at, I mean, like Saratoga County now uses cells that are not being used to be able to provide places for the homeless so that they can stay there at night, go out during the day and look for jobs with support. It's a process that's working. It's been used, and put in place by the revenue that comes through, phones, iPads, all that excess revenue pays for that piece. That would take a lot of people off Tammy's plate or DSS plate, possibly. Just an idea. The other thing, the contracts, are the contracts per bed? And are they in keeping with how many homeless we have? So do we have 30 people homeless and we have a contract for 2 beds?
We have a total of 5 beds between 2 shelters.
And so
We have 150 people home.
So when we're reactive, we have to find the beds where they can be, which probably costs more money.
There also are not a lot of those beds available. You know, other counties are also contracting for them. This isn't terribly unlike the situation that we have with foster care either. But as far as, are we just gonna keep handing it out? And what are the solutions? We need more low-income housing across our county. People can't get to the jobs because they don't have transportation. These are all problems that everybody here has heard time and time again. Transportation, mental health, low-income housing. What can we do to impact that? There are things, but in some larger counties, they do take that on where they say, let's look for a private agency that is, maybe a nonprofit that is willing to oversee the building of a site or whatever. And they find some location where it's not gonna anger the neighbors and maybe they can get to a bus route. You don't have that.
Tammy, the group home in Hampton. That seems to be
It's
closed.
a hotel.
No, the one next door, they used to have, house the disabled,
I don't know.
right next to the hotel. There's
Next.
a state group home.
Panorama.
Next to
Okay,
Panorama.
Panorama. Okay, because there's another hotel in
Right,
Hampton.
right. Yes,
Okay. I'm not at all familiar with that group home.
so that group home apparently is closed.
In all likelihood, it was something that was funded through the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities,
I think so, yes.
right? And
If
so
that's-
that's another thing. Office of People with Developmental Disabilities, Office of Mental Health, Office of Alcohol and Substance Abuse. Those places have less and less services, and that drives those people to us.
But if that's empty now, could we potentially approach them to use for temporary housing for people?
Yeah, you could with any of your vacant houses, any of the ones that are
Or
being
stay-
held back for
It's
taxes.
stay home.
You've got to staff it.
Cheaper.
Heat it.
Cheap and rental place. I'm just suggesting that there's
Yeah.
places open that might
Yep.
provide something. I don't know what it is.
I don't see how to be cheap.
I don't see how anything's cheap.
I don't know.
Jay,
And I don't know either, but at what point, as we keep growing this expense, do we go to a warming shelter, or as Sue says, do we look at Great Meadows for temporary housing or something like that? And just because it's my harsh nature, gee, if you give me a free room in a hotel versus a bed in a group with another 20, I might not want to stay in that group with 20 very long and find somewhere else to be. So are we
And-
making it so nice that it's us?
That's,
So again, loophole in the law, we do double bunk people until they provide us with a doctor's note saying that they have some anxiety disorder or some other situation that would put them at risk.
Beggars can't be choosy.
Chairman.
I
said chairman.
Sorry, Cam.
Wait, he's gonna.
I tried to
offer
get his
a
attention, Chairman.
resolution.
Damn it, I didn't call you Dave. Chairman.
Just so I'm understanding this, our biggest bubble here is in the homeless house. Is that what I'm hearing out of all this?
it is huge. I don't want you to forget, like, talk about all of this and then someday have somebody say, yeah, but you never mentioned foster care there.
Okay, yeah,
Foster care is also hugely
Yeah,
expensive.
foster care is on my mind also,
Mhm.
but I'm not sure how to solve foster care. I'm thinking down the road, I always try to think down the road 10 years. And if this is not gonna be a cultural change, in 10 years, would we be better off running our own hotel complex or our own shelter? I've joked about having a two-story housing thing over here when we tear the shop down. Would that be a more economical way to do it? We just run it ourselves? Clearly, the motels are making a profit if we're putting them in there. They're still doing it. Perhaps that's what we ought to be looking at in the long term.
Would we have to distribute them? Because we have to get everybody here, but they don't wanna be here.
Well,
We need like 5 or 6 of them.
this is a good place. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's,
They can't choose.
I don't think we're asking them where they want to be now. We're sending them to Warren County or Saratoga County or wherever she can find a motel.
I compare this let's compare this to Pleasant Valley. When that was a community home and all the communities took care of it, it wasn't on our books, wasn't even a problem. As soon as the state gave money and rehab and all that, it destroyed it. Then we had to get out of the business, and now we just pay more Medicaid where the state does to make all those things function. It's the same thing here. As soon as the state gets into all this pro-housing, everything that's worded, if you'd read them the opposite of what they say. Inflation Reduction Act, increased inflation. Pro-housing, will ruin housing. All these things are the opposite of what they say. I don't know that government even belongs in the housing business. If you're here on earth and your number one thing isn't to own your home and be a responsible parent, family member, whatever, I don't know where that's an asset to our world.
But we have to deal with our world.
And we have a whole group right now that have lost that priority.
Well,
So how do we get that back?
We have to deal with it as it is today. We can certainly look down and changing it, but right now, the situation we're faced with is the fact that they've dumped out all the mental institutions. That's our primary thing driving the jail, driving our enforcement efforts, and driving Tammy's thing is mental health, as far as I'm concerned. That's, if it were not for the mental health component that we're not dealing with, and we systematically said, hey, we're more humane, we're gonna let you go. Well, that was a horrible philosophical mistake to make, but if you did that exists right now. How are we gonna deal with it? Question.
If
We
you
can
build it, they will
talk
come.
about, trying to work on a segment of them and get people working, get, this sort of thing, but there's a mental health component. Until we turn around and realize we made some mistakes, we're gonna have to deal with it. And I'm wondering what the best way in the next 10 years to deal with it, because it's not gonna change in, the next at least probably 3 administrations I can see, predicting out in New York State. How do we deal with this housing thing? Sending them to motels in Saratoga County at $200 a night is not the way.
I just want to insert that many counties have a county-run mental health clinic, and we do not. That is the way ours is formed with, as a community services board. But there are counties that provide mental health assistance to their people as part of the county
Do you
business.
think that would have a significant impact on the number of people you're dealing with in the other door?
I'd like to think it would be helping them.
Help.
Is that what you-
$3 or $4
helps.
million worth?
If they, we have a lot of people that are not compliant with mental health treatment now, or they're not taking their medication, or they could take medication and it would help them, but they refuse to take it. Like, there's all matter of those sorts of things. If the county could somehow offer it and it was something that would engage people, I don't know. But right now, we don't have enough services.
You say you have many of the 62 counties, how many, you said, what percentage?
I wish that I could tell you, Rob, I bet you Rob York could tell you. I think it's probably 80% of them.
Oh, wow.
And Rob never mentioned that.
Warren County have?
No, ours is, we
We're
have,
together, so.
we have a community
Well, what is-
services board that's Warren in Washington that passes through funding.
General's up.
I don't know if I wanna, this. I'm gonna make a statement that doesn't really concern this, but the society. You can see it in Whitehall. State, government. The people have taken advantage of so long, now is a culture. Now it's come to the point where the taxpayers gotta pay for the people that have run in this system since it was born.
Well, 3 generations.
Because they will not get out of the system. The government should have helped put them to work like they did the WPA years ago and like that. But that isn't gonna change.
But we
It's just-
can, we still make them actually prove they're trying to get a job and all that, right? We still do all that. So, Scott,
I'm just wondering what cross many conversations, but we were talking earlier about, kind of maintaining the civil service records and everything for BOCES. Can we use that as some kind of leverage to obtain that building that they're getting ready to vacate? And use that as, start out as a warming center and then go up from there.
interesting thought. Sue,
What Bob said is so true. I mean, back in the 70s when they released and stopped the institutions, the idea was trying to be humane. It actually, people were living out in refrigerator boxes over top of sewer covers because they didn't know how to take care of themselves, because they can't take care of themselves. That's only progressed, where all of a sudden the churches are locked. They're trying to keep people outside. The people just end up getting towards trying to survive. And that's their mode of operation. They're just trying to survive. Our communities would be safer. We've got instances in this county where things have happened due to probably lack of medication. The people could have been killed, eventually they were. If you stop taking, if you don't have your inoculation and it goes on for days, and then all of a sudden you start decompensating, all of a sudden the house burns down. And none of us want that. You don't want people put at risk. And so until we start taking care of the housing problem before mental health, we're gonna be out in the same tune next year and the year after, and the year after. There's no turning back on it. So I think we need to be solution-based and think about a solution rather than having this conversation again next year, Dan.
I won't be.
It'll be this year, but at budget time. I don't think it'll be next year. We'll hear this
So
again.
how can we help with mental health that makes enough of a difference? Because they have the freedom not to do it. And we might get 5% who willfully go, yes, I really need the help, and let's put it.
It's interesting, because I've heard that conversation before, but having worked in mental health a long time, if a person were able to sit there and say, this is for your benefit. You don't start out with, well, you don't really have to take the medicine if you don't want. Okay? And then all of a sudden that sets the tune. But if you have a person that is able to work with them and de-escalate the situation, say, this is a benefit to you, you can have a life that can potentially help you. And I'm not saying it's easy because there's a lot of issues here. But,
I understand that when you're mentally off, too. So,
well, you get help when you have a broken leg. But
So-
sometimes people have mental health issues and it's like, you're on your own, you gotta figure this out.
Oh, but they don't know they have a broken.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
There's not one or two solutions
There's
needed.
not.
There's multiple solutions needed. Going back to education, starting education, starting support at a younger age, making sure we have housing, making sure we're doing more economic development, find jobs here for people to look at. And it's astounding when I look at some of these numbers of education and poverty and what the difference is in population and education. I mean, bachelor's degrees in Washington County is 21.9%, but in Warren County it's 34.0%. So there's a big differences here.
boy, but that has no bearing on mental health. You have mental health problems and people with masters, bachelors, and diplomas and nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, you have people that don't have mental health problems that never graduated. Most of our mental health problems are created by probably our government from what they force on the people.
They do probably have a higher level of resilience and a capacity to manage their mental health issues while holding a job.
I think if you're higher educated, you might have mentioned, Dave, you're gonna be around higher people, you're gonna have more help around you.
Right.
And at a lower level, unfortunately. I mean, these things,
That's why it's not, there's no simple solution.
There isn't.
It's a multi-source.
but it's all related in some ways. Unfortunately, I mean, we can't stop people from going to a food bank because they buy lottery tickets and smoke and drink. But we need to I consider that all part of the choice system.
Right.
And there's many related issues.
Well, and how much money that we actually put out through these services end up for a Game Boy and drugs? It's probably way more than we know. So we're enabling that situation. It's not because we can't control that.
We don't give them that much money, Brian.
But if they don't spend money on food
Somehow it gets to 29,
and they have
30 million.
available money,
That's a lot of
that way they have available money, very short-term thinking.
Albert.
So if I can inject something that's gonna sound very simplistic, it's not. One of two things has to happen. Either the state has to fund its mandate, or it has to release the mandate and give local control on the hours. One of those two paths has to occur. I've been hearing Chairman Hankey pound this drum for as long as I've been in this position, I think. But this right here is the actual poster child for an unfunded mandate. One of those two paths has to occur. They either have to fund what we're required to do, or they have to give us control to decide how the dollars.
I've asked you before, the money we receive from the state of New York versus what we pay out for required mandated operations of the county. Have we done that number? Like, what is the difference?
Not like it.
Do you have any way of knowing that number?
Say again, Supervisor.
So we receive aid from the state every year.
He wants to know the difference between the revenue
What we
and the
receive and what we're
expenditures on
required to pay
mandates.
out,
Yeah,
mandates. You know, like, is there a ratio?
It,
you know,
they
really,
take a stab at it at the letter that goes.
the
out with
letter at the
tax
end of the
bill.
year with your tax bill pretty much defines that on what percentage of your
Here's
dollars.
He does think what we're told to do, how much are we actually paying for?
Right, that's what he wants to
Yeah,
know.
because what I would love to know is that it's more of a thought exercise for me. I would love to be able to say to the state, we're done providing any assistance that you are mandating. Just go it alone on our own. I know this is impossible,
Well, maybe cheaper.
but that's my point. I mean, could we just, I mean, I know it's harsh. It's a harsh reality, but it's a harsh response to just to say, so we can't do this anymore. And I'm curious why there hasn't been a lawsuit to say, you have an unfunded mandate, you're not funding it, but you're requiring it. Why has this not been challenged in court? Or has it? You know? Because you just keep looking at the state is, I used to jokingly say it, but now I think we're almost like we're competing to be the worst run state in the nation right now.
Oh, no, we're winning. We're not even
Well, I tell you, you read these articles coming out of California, they're
Yeah.
putting up a good fight as well.
Hey, now, Brian, this is
Well, hang on, Dan, I'm not done, hang on, I'm not quite done.
Well, I want to know if that was your answer.
No, I don't know my answers, but, so we don't know of any suit where there's been a suit amongst counties to say to the state, we can't do this anymore. Either you fund us fully or we're not doing it. And just challenge it. It's, because we're not gonna fix this, the behavioral health issue in the state, it's not gonna happen, we're never gonna fix it. So either, like Al said, they pay for it and fund it fully, or we stop doing it.
Same with housing. With housing, we can't fund everybody's house. It's not possible.
Because, you know, it's fun, the funny thing, you're hearing this phrase, this money laundering scheme, this housing, this affordable housing, it's all BS. Those aren't affordable houses, we're giving grants to people, they're building these houses, they're building these apartments. And now they're charging way more than what you normally see in a typical apartment, let's say Kingsbury, my example. So, we don't, is there a way to know that number? That's what I'd like to know.
We could, I'm sure we could filter that out.
There might be a way to drill down into that,
Have we?
especially this time of year. when I'm trying to close the books, it might be a great time to actually exercise that.
I would like to request it, at least the effort to try to find out what we're being told we have to spend in unfunded mandates and how much do we actually receive in state aid from New York State. Because at some point, maybe we just say, okay, we're done.
And what would be the impact of just saying, no,
Probably very similar to the other discussions we had today.
we tiptoed into that conversation when we talked last month about the tax cap override. And if the only thing at stake is $80,000 of raise the age money, then you can keep your raise the age money. I need the money. I need to, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
at some point, there's a cost benefit analysis.
And the problem is they develop those programs, you find ways to get money through ACA, you know, and so does probably everybody. So they start out small with a small number, and then all of a sudden you hit a huge number. So like Herkimer County, pretty sure it was Herkimer, they actually, it's where Johnstown is, Herkimer. They actually overrode the.
Yeah.
Fulton.
Montgomery.
Fulton
Oh,
County. It is
sorry.
Fulton. Fulton County actually overrode the cap. And then realized they were out nearly $1 million or $2 million in raise the age. I don't know how they missed that because we knew it, but, and I'm surprised because their administrator's been there a long, long time. Or whether he was trying to prove a point to the board that, override the cap, we'll show you how it works. I don't know. But that did happen. So that is exactly how it works. They don't get it now.
This has been an enlightening discussion, but I think we beat it to death.
Yeah, and I think Tammy for come in and explain it, because there's no way I can come with you in any detail and say, this is what our problem is, because it's not a department that I can fix. We're gonna be hiring a new commissioner, this is all gonna fall on them. You're leaving them in a nice spot, thank you.
I didn't, it wasn't intentional.
Chairman, last question that I'll stop at this. So are we gonna be, Al, you gonna be, try to drill that down when you do the exam?
I'm gonna make every effort to measure that question. I mean, when you look, I mean, we look at things like public defense, code enforcement, Article 6 or public health, there's measurable places that aren't our job that have been put down. There are metrics already that we probably could take a look at.
Everybody sat with me.
Yes, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, and we'd already passed your advocacy.
Oh, good.
You'd already done that.
All right, great.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Dan.
Thank you, young lady.
I'm glad he didn't get sarcastic and go the other way. Okay. We're on the resolutions. I think we'll do them in order and then see what we have left. B, mental health for psychiatric events. There's another $250,000 right there. Moved by Sam, second by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, carried.
Ed,
Abstain.
we can start right now.
There you
Not funding
go.
anything.
Abstain.
C,
Protest.
mental health for court-based mental health navigator services. And this, we're gonna increase the appropriation and increase the revenue, so I'm gonna pay for this one.
Nice.
Motion. Moved by Jim, second by Dave. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Resolution D is county road fund for bridge project tools.
So moved.
Dave, second by Daryl. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay, E is sheriff to carry over unspent law enforcement technology grant. Moved by Daryl, second by Dave. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. F is sheriff carryover unspent body worn camera grant. Moved by Daryl, second by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. G, budget for public health early intervention program. Move it. Moved by Sam, second by Sue and Charlie. All in favor, say aye.
I have a question. Brian, I got a question. A budget impact statement of 85,000 in fund balance. We apply. Why are we using fund balance?
Because you gotta pay for it somewhere.
There's no state aid. Not 100%.
They got as much state aid as they could get. This is over and above.
This is another one, Mr. Hogan.
Yeah.
There was one I started on when I first came in, was early intervention. After beating my head thoroughly against the wall for 2 or 3 years, I gave up.
We started too early.
This is one of the first really significant unfunded mandates Dana's talking about that I became.
The next one is well, Mr.
And I really understand that empathy for kids. I mean, kids, they deserve a chance. I'm not sure that anything we do gives them a better chance, because I can't fix their house.
Well,
That's
the
the
thing of
problem.
it is, there's some really good stuff done, so we're really.
Yes.
And I've got people in my family that have taken advantage of. And I know people in this room have.
Certainly.
And some of it's really good, but the way it's implemented, is incredibly expensive. And, they're making us pay for it. It's unfunded mandate.
And Dana, this one does give us our numbers, 49% from New York State, so we're getting 51%.
They almost pay half.
Can't afford it.
They probably used to pay it all.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Carried. H, public health's preschool program. Another one, 123,000.
This one's 60% reimbursement.
Where they all add up. Okay, motion,
All there.
I need a motion. Moved by Jim, second by. And any discussion?
Yeah, as I trying to learn as much as I can. This is preschool, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it's impossible to open up a preschool, isn't it? Oh, I mean, but people are making money on this too, and I'm hearing that it's very hard to open up a preschool and you. Or am I not understanding?
Most goes through the school district.
Right, this is, yeah. And this is so a parent can work, I imagine.
Well, it's also to help it get caught up.
The developmental issues.
Right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Yeah.
Carried.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
You certainly can.
What if we all agree we vote no on this? You still gotta pay it, right?
It's already paid.
It's already
It's all that we already have.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's a problem.
so I could vote no along with him and we all could say nay, but we've paid it.
We've already paid it.
Moved on. And
Yeah.
so this is kind of just a show here
Well, this
today.
is the-
Well, you could always. It's audit, you know.
This is just putting the money.
No, it's paid.
Yeah, this is just to get the money in my budget, Mr. Shaw.
Well, that's the
all.
problem we have with unfunded mandates is because if we don't do something they want us to do, they can just pull back and not give us any revenue at all. And so, if we don't know how that would work out yet. Sue, did you have something?
Yeah, do we get any federal funds for this?
It's the state aid at 59.5%.
Okay, so the federal funds come through the state,
If there's federal funds, it would pass through, yes.
so potentially that's on the cutting blocks.
If there are in fact federal funds that pass through the state.
The word I'm getting is in social services, New York State failed 17 on 18 criteria. Do you think we're on the chopping block?
I'm talking about
No, I'm talking about,
the direct federal funds.
well, so federal funds as a whole will be on the chopping block in New York.
Right.
You can't do that poorly and not be on the chopping block.
No.
Only in New York.
Well, it's across the country. It's
Yeah,
not just New York.
well, I'm just telling you, what New York failed 17 out of 18. I don't know about the rest of the country. Idea. I, Youth Bureau for Pretrial Services Award. This is actually a state aid. Moved by Dave, second by Darrell. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye on aye. Opposed? Carried. J. Ben Capital Project Sewer District, moved by Darrell. Second by Jim. Dave. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. K is general fund budget for Department of Social Services, where, as you can see, it starts right there, is mandated by the state of New York, in all caps, you showed it.
Resolution K for King of the Unfunded Mandate.
Yeah. It's only gonna cost us $1,054,000 at this juncture, on top of anything else. So, need a motion for that one. I'll move by Jim, second by Darrell. Any discussion on that? It's what we really just went over. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Carried. L. Amend 2025 budget to carry over unspent art funds for foster care, daycare services. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They're spent. M, rescind resolution number 50 to amend the staffing pattern.
That was in,
Very good.
second.
Second by Sam. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. N is Board of Elections, general election and mail ballot grants.
We gotta recognize that. So we.
Moved by Daryl, second by Dave. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Oh, it's gonna be community college chargeback. Motion. Moved by Jim, second by Sue. Any discussion?
Another one we can't control.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Carried. D is county clerk budget to carry over unspent local government records management fund grant.
Recognize that motion.
Motion by Daryl, second by Sam. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Q is to amend the budget for Division of Criminal Justice. It says draft, so that means this could change. Is that?
Correct.
Into that, okay. I need a motion.
Draft motion. Back in for discussion. What do we think's gonna change?
Yeah, probably the numbers of where they're
Yeah,
playing.
we're unsure.
Although you still need the signed numbers too.
Well, the treasurer will do that.
Yeah.
We were just working off the sheet that Mike provided at committee.
So until we get those numbers outlined as the impact statement.
Increase revenue.
Right. It's new money he's got, so that's what the plan is, or how we presented it. And so we'll try to nail that down before the board meeting.
The nice thing here is Mike has chosen to use some of the money for things that are already included. To offset some of the costs he was gonna incur no matter what. He's chosen instead of spending on new things, he's chosen to offset the things he already did. So that's helpful.
Very helpful.
Mr. Rizal?
What happened to some of these payouts at the full board? Still required to pay.
Already paid.
They're already paid most of them, yeah.
So what happens if they fail at the full board?
We send a bill to the state.
We have a problem overdrafting our budget.
Just makes the budget out of whack. Your budget should actually match your incoming expense. Did I have a motion on this one?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And R, same type thing, with draft, sign council, that's where you go with the other half.
Increase revenue. Second.
Moved by Jim, second. By Dave, Carol. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. There must be another. Another? Was that everything? Everybody had enough? Oh, Jesus, the camera.
At least you recognize it. Several years ago, we asked if they could figure out a breakdown of what the people were doing from the students were doing when they went to these other community colleges up there. Our area of another community college or something specific. And it's not a huge amount of money, $156,000, but you know, pennies count. And I'm getting used to thinking in logarithms here. And I was just wondering if, with our new president coming in, that maybe we should look at this again, and say, hey, we're losing students going to this curriculum or that curriculum somewhere else. Why aren't we providing that service? Would that be worth looking at? Yeah, I think I'm maybe addressing it too.
I would just make a comment that the majority of income coming in to SUNY Adirondack is not from Warren or Washington County.
I know.
It's actually from Saratoga
For chargebacks,
residents.
I understand that.
Yeah, So chargebacks really help us in terms of our support that we have to give Sudiat around it.
Well, that was because Saratoga County didn't want to get involved in it directly. I
Right.
understand that system, but
And
some of these are fairly large. You know, like one Hudson Valley, and I think they're probably going for the machinist.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
just to look to the future, there are plans with the Saratoga campus now, full-fledged campus is to increase those kind of programs there.
Okay.
So maybe that might help.
All right, so that's, maybe there is some movement.
Well, there's also another unfunded mandate hidden in that resolution, because as you know, the Fashion Institute of Technology is about $28,000 a semester. And the state used to fund half of that, now funds none of it.
I didn't want to say anything about that, because then Dave would bring up that I taught there.
I proxy went to say it yourself, see?
Yes.
There's one more other.
There's one more other?
Yes.
Somebody ought to tell a story or sing a song. You don't want to.
Once upon a time, there was a county treasurer.
Different story.
Hey, Jude. Oh, wait.
He is
I got a
before
question.
you.
We're waiting for you.
You did?
I got it.
You ready for other?
I got a question for Adam. I can't read that well, but does that say 4.9% for the ICS suite? Is that what we're getting?
Yes.
So not bad on Dan, huh?
No,
Paris.
but that just means that's going south.
No, I know.
So we're
No.
just taking a bond and investing in the ICS.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you
Take a
very
bond
much.
at 2.9, invest in ICS and get 5%.
Yeah, but it'll drop to 2.
So we have another,
So
Yes.
the other that we have, so the Great Meadow Prison. With the closing of Great Meadow Prison, there's been conversation, to have some kind of use for that facility so that it just doesn't remain vacant. In order to get it out of the, I guess, state ownership so that something can be done with the property, it requires a constitutional amendment. So there would have to be a resolution sent into the legislators and then they would carry that bill forward. I believe, Kerry, Senator Stack, and it's maybe Matt Simpson, and maybe Senator Ashby have, been involved in conversation about this in the past. I'm in the process right now of seeing if I can get a resolution that was passed by another county who has lost a prison, asking for the same. So far, I have not been able to do so. So I reached out to Assemblyman Simpson to see if I could get some guidance from his office. And if I can, I'd like to get a resolution together to go before the board for next Friday.
Motion to bring that when we get it.
I'll make a motion, but I have comment.
Second by Jim, okay, discussion.
So comment is this bill has been for other counties that had that. And it's been up in the legislature, it's passed the Senate, but it's not passed the Assembly. For some reason, there seems to be one area in the Adirondack Park that keeps on resisting this. So it hasn't passed.
You know the area?
Gabriel's.
He wanted it, so I got the process.
No, it is the APA people.
Oh, the APA people were.
They're the one that are lobbying against it. So they have a strong lobby. So the question is will we want to put this through, it has to go through constitutional amendment. Will we put it through in our own name and not be associated with others? Or should we find out if other areas, say it another way, counties that want it, if they would support it without Gabriel's, that would get rid of the resistance about APA. So that's the question, and Matt's looking into the.
Yes.
Because if Gabriel's gonna pass, he can put it up again, it's not gonna pass still, it's in the API.
The whole idea of being with Saratoga is they have a lot more clout than we do to maybe get it through was, I know the original idea. Gabriel's, they've already succeeded the park in what they wanna do. They let Gabriel's fall down.
Yeah, question.
So by letting it fall down, it became Forever Wild, so that might answer some of that.
My question is, if it comes to pass, does that mean we have to maintain it?
Whoa, there's.
Wow, this
Would
will
we-
take
Are
years
you
to
saying
get
this
it.
resolution is gonna be to where we wanna take it?
I think it allows another entity to do something with it.
Right.
Whether.
I
Otherwise, the
understand
state
that,
just
that
owns
part,
it.
but what I'm saying, is this resolution, is this saying,
Not for us to take it now.
No.
it's not
I
even
don't-
implying
I
that we
don't-
wanna take it, right?
Right, I don't wanna take it.
Okay.
So the issue is that state property, the way it is, you can't lease it out to anyone but a state agency. That's the only thing it can be used for at this point. Can't be sold to a private
I
organization.
understand that,
Can be
but
sent to someone
I
else.
wanna know what the resolution was being,
Unless we
we're
take
talking about.
ownership, which I don't intend to even.
And now
Think
a
about it.
constitutional amendment has to be voted on at an election, right?
Correct.
Well, now,
It
Dave,
has to be voted on twice.
hasn't McGregor been, shopped?
No, they won't let McGregor out, that's why Saratoga's interested. Yeah.
McGregor's in the
I
same
thought
boat we
they've
are.
been looking for somebody to take that over.
They
That
have-
one,
They have.
other issues that we
They
have
don't
allow it.
So how can they do it if constitutional amendment hasn't?
It'd be a long-term lease, I think. I thought the same thing with you, Jim, until I just heard all that.
One of the other obstacles in the way is the requirement that it's in the footprint of the Adirondack Park.
Yeah,
So
that's why they have to open the
So,
amendment,
exactly.
yeah.
So
We'll think about.
Gary Waters put together a trip to go down to Warwick. Warwick was originally a boys' school.
Not in the Adirondack Park.
Right, I know. But what happened was, because it was private ownership and became state, they were able to take the the IDA actually purchased it, put together an industrial park in it, and I think about 30% of the acreage down there is now used as economic development area. So that's something we could do if we could do it, if we had that handcuffs off up here.
Chairman, you
And
can.
and that's all well and good, except that we can't do any of that with the ones that are in a county that has areas in the Adirondack Park, that I go back to Forest Preserve. You need a constitutional amendment to do anything with Forest Preserve, that's why it's.
And we've looked at trying to do it through ECL law. Because it was prior to the park and we haven't had any success at that level either.
Pretty soon, the anticipation would go.
Well, I feel like I'm in a Zelda world, don't know which way to lead.
Forgot. Comstock.
14 years
is not in the.
But which way are we leading?
Parts of 40
If you're
are.
that's all.
Because.
You gotta get
it's in a
constitutional amendment.
Forest Preserve county.
Yes.
We have Forest Preserve in the county. And that's the way the Constitution reads, it's in Forest Preserve County, it goes back to Forest Preserve.
Yeah, same with McGregor. I don't think McGregor's in the park either. It's the same
McGregor's not in the
idea.
park, it's
Yeah.
part of it.
Well,
That's
McGregor is
Borders.
in part.
APA.
Us too, always the state.
Brian?
Literally, every time we turn around.
So in the Adirondack Park, state-owned property pays property taxes.
Sometimes.
Some,
In the Adirondack Park, almost all of it.
Yeah.
But what about, can we get them to pay property taxes on the prison?
We advocated for that really hard.
we're down, that's part of our head.
The state has to pass it.
State has, I'm not sure that's gonna happen.
But I like Sue Clary's idea. If they want us to house all these people, why not let the state, let the state pay for it, use their own state-owned property, Great Meadow, and they can all come in and out.
Actually, Brian, that was not my idea. My
Okay.
idea was
You
to
said
use the cell box in Washington County Correctional Facility. That's
The
my
idea, and
Well, how about the Great Meadow Correctional Facility? There's cell blocks there. They could use all that and they'd still be.
Hey, let's
happy.
just agree, both
Upgrade
have
them.
great
I think
ideas, move along here. What
I
are we
think
doing?
it-
What are we doing? Have we got a resolution? on-
Listen to Sue, I call them.
I think that's okay, and I'm ready to move on to, I hope that somebody would potentially put Great Meadows back to use, because it's only gonna serve the county and the people that live here. So let's remove the obstacles, get the for sale sign in the front yard and move forward.
You're 10 years away, but it's a good idea. So we're gonna come up with a resolution if we can. That's what we're after. So we had a motion in a second, I believe. We just needed to vote. Is everyone in favor of doing that?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Aye.
Nope.
Anybody opposed?
I am. They rot. They wanted it to rot, let it rot. Let them deal with it.
Let them pay tax.
Bunch of idiots.
Very good. I think that's all we had, but I thank everyone for, partaking in this dog and pony show today, but I just can't make up for $4 million that wasn't supposed to happen. And I don't know where we're gonna go from here. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting job for when you try to figure out, because every department is probably that way right now, not just.
Hey, Brian,
DFS.
don't bring it up again. Takes too long.
Bring it up every month.
It takes too long to hear it.
We're adjourned.